In my experience, critical thinking just wasn't taught when I was growing up. Not in church, not in school. I grew up in Provo, Utah, and so I'm willing to bet that a lot of my teachers were Mormons. And maybe this was also because I'm a Gen Xer. Maybe it's just because education has changed so much since I was in school. But growing up, I remember being told that my opinions didn't matter. I would express an opinion and I was told, no, you don't think that. That's not what you think. And I had no confidence in what my opinions were because my opinions were wrong. In my education experience, I was expected to open wide as they spoon-fed me facts and figures and opinions, which I was expected to just memorize and regurgitate. That's not critical thinking. Maybe my experience was different from other people because I had undiagnosed ADHD until I was a senior in high school. And then that hit me hard. Knowing that I had a problem was so challenging for me. When I was a freshman in college, I went to the state college, and in English writing class, which was remedial, of course, I was expected to write a paper about anything I chose. And I decided I wanted to write it against ADHD. I didn't think it was legitimate. And my professor, when I turned in that proposal, the professor said, no, you can't do that. You cannot do that because there are facts that state that ADHD is a legitimate diagnosis and you're going nowhere with this paper. So I had to change my whole paper. In hindsight, she's right. Like, yes, it's diagnosed and I didn't have a leg to stand on, but she didn't let me figure that out for myself. She told me what to think. That same teacher also shamed someone in front of the whole class. He said he wanted to talk about how capitalism was the best economic system in the world. And she said, everyone knows that. You need to have an argument that not everybody's going to agree with. She was telling him what to think. And she was telling everyone else what to think. I didn't even know what critical thinking was until I was already in the program to become an educator. And this idea of critical thinking was so novel to me. Like, what, people can decide for themselves what to think? Common Core was rolled out a couple years after I started teaching, and Common Core is huge on critical thinking. In math, for example, rather than just teaching kids an algorithm that they're expected to memorize and regurgitate, they dig really deep and they try to determine why. Why do they use this algorithm? And then they're given several different strategies to choose from. So when they're given the opportunity to solve a problem, they can choose which strategy works best for them. That's critical thinking. In reading and in writing, students are expected to read contrasting passages and they get to decide for themselves what to think. Then they cite evidence from the text to support their opinions. Yes, their biases go into that decision-making process, but the fact is they get to see both sides and they make a decision for themselves. That's critical thinking. I got to teach third grade for several years, and when I would teach writing, I wouldn't start with passages with controversial topics like, should the U.S. fund the war in Israel or anything like that. Instead, we would stay with something pretty benign like, which is better, cats or dogs? Kids would read the passage on dogs, what the benefits of dogs were. They'd read the passage on cats, what the benefits of cats were. Then they got to make a decision for themselves and cite evidence to defend their opinion. When I think about how critical thinking is taught, quote unquote taught, in really extreme organized religions, I think of it as if I were to teach the dog versus cat lesson in my class. And I would show up and say, all right, guys, this is why dogs are better than cats. So take note. And we're just going to read this passage about why dogs are better. And we're going to write a passage about why dogs are better. And no, don't bring any cat information because that's anti-dog. In churches, they don't allow critical thinking because it threatens their control. I don't believe in or support any organization which restricts or limits someone's intellectual freedom, the ability to seek things out for themselves and decide for themselves, make informed, educated decisions on what they want to believe and how they want to live their lives. That's true for religious freedom too. I don't believe anybody should have restrictions on religion as long as the religion doesn't harm someone else. Because as soon as we are using our religion to oppress someone else or a group of people or another organization, then something's got to change. Something's got to stop. If you are religious, if you're a Mormon and you're thinking that I don't know what I'm talking about and you firmly disagree with me, that's 100% okay. We're entitled to our own opinions. No one has to be right. If you'd like to argue with me, that's totally fine. I would ask that you do some critical thinking. I would ask for you to cite evidence to support your opinion, but that you also read about dogs and you read about cats. Or, in other words, you read the Book of Mormon, you read the Ensign, and you read the CES letter. You try reading both points of view and then make an informed decision for yourself, because that's critical thinking.